Yo, what we saying, what we're spraying, back again with another About the Fan. And today we got a Southern Gooner. You know the way that is all the way from the States. Well, he didn't fly over because you know we're doing it on the stream, but he's all the way from the States and he's come here to share his story as a fan with all of you. But before we get into any of that, people locked inside, start dashing your kunai. Yeah, the like button in it because we need to get as many people locked inside. And also, while you're there, you know, you might as well subscribe to the village. You know, we got loads of missions that we need to undertake, and for us to be successful in all them missions, we need as much shinobi as possible. You know, them way there. Make sure you're hitting the bell so you're notified whenever I go live or drop content, and make sure you are subscribing to the Southern Gooner. His channel is in the title. There is no excuses, people. No excuses. You know how we roll in the village? We support all the creative people that are also part of the village. You get it? So just as a quick one, and I did post it in the chat as well, and it is pinned. Unfortunately, due to the structure of the show, it will be getting released as a podcast on Spotify. I cannot respond to messages. Unfortunately, it makes sense for the live stream, but when people are listening back on Spotify, it won't make sense at all. So people, sit back, relax. Any questions that you do have for Matty, please send them in via super chat and he will answer them at the end. Yeah. So look, we're going to be bringing through the Southern Gooner. You know, he's doing his thing over there. You may have seen him on his own channel cooking it up. You may have seen the great discussions and conversations that he gets involved with on Lee Gunner's channel as well. He's a great guy, amazing at photography as well, and he's come to share some of his story. So welcome him, nice, show him a good time, big him up. Man, how you doing, man?
Hey man, what's going on, brother Hooks? Always good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, man. You know, we've been meaning to do this for a while. You know, just been trying to make the diaries align. But I'm extremely happy to have you on board, man.
Likewise, man. Likewise. You know, life happens, so everybody's trying to. We grown men working, so you know, it's getting those schedules lined up. But we got it. We in here, brother.
Yeah, man. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say. But before we get into any of that, as this will be getting dropped on Spotify. And, you know, people don't always listen all the way to the end. So let's get it out of the way right from the beginning. Where can people find you?
You can find me here on YouTube, Southern Gooner. You can also find me. I'll drop my IG. You can find me on IG, Matt Odom Photo. And you can see what I do for a living when I'm not supporting the Arsenal. And you can always catch me over on Lee on game days because I'm usually watching the games with Lee on the watch alongs with Lee Gunner. So, yeah, you can find me over there, bro.
And I just want to throw it out there. You have the most amazing camera that I've seen in YouTube.
I appreciate that, man. I get messages in the middle of the night about this setup, man.
It is clean. It's what I aspire to get to, man. So hopefully one day I can upgrade and get that's a nice. I thought my camera was nice, but what is it? You're showing me the levels. You're showing me the levels. So look, I usually like to start this show with a show starter question, just to warm things up, you know, and get people thinking in a different way that they don't usually think. So look, yeah, I've got magical powers. Yeah, I've got magical powers. Yeah. And basically, this is what I'm gonna be doing. So you know the 98 double winning side, yeah.
Yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah, and this is including Arsene Wenger as the manager. I am bringing them into this league. They're swapping places with the current team that we have at the moment. And what I want to know is, do they go on to beat Liverpool to the title this season? And what else can they win and why?
You talking so you're asking me that based off of everything the way it's laid out now, even the Champions League, everything.
So we're in everything.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have a magical season this year if that's the team. No doubt about it, bro. No doubt about it. Anelka at 19, bro. What? What? Oh man, that bro, you just took me back in time, man. That was some good stuff, man. Because that's when when I got into Arsenal, it was in the mid 90s. So we're talking 95, 96, 97. So I was able to see all of that. And so by the time we started winning, when we got that cup double, you could readily available watch a lot of Arsenals over here. Before that, it was a little bit harder. But during that period, it was a lot more accessible. And bro, let me tell you, man, that team was stacked. And it's wild when you look back at it, because most people immediately default to the 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. And people forget about the 90s teams unless you actually grew up during that period. So when you've seen 2 decades, you go through the 90s and then you see 2000. And then you go through you get to where we are now. You see why some of us have the attitude we have, because that's all we know. It's like anybody who watched the Bulls in the 90s, that's a Bulls fan. That's all you know. You don't know anything about Or Golden State. I don't even bring it modern. The Golden State Warriors fans. Anybody that's a youngster now that's a Golden State Warrior fan, that's all they know is winning. They don't know anything, about losing. So when you watch that team and how you had everything, pretty much it was still Wenger had only been there 2 years. And so basically you had the Tony Adams, you had the back line was in order. Bro, that team would have probably walked this league. No doubt about it, man. I see the brother deluded in here. He know that team would have walked the league. It's like this is where when you talk about football, modern football, and you look at football of the past, it was just that they were so good at the basics. And I think now, and this is a lot down to systems, and it's just not that players are bad. It's just that things have changed. Everything's system based. Even as a coach, because I've retired from coaching now, but I coached there for about 15, 16 years. And I can tell you, man, just the philosophy, coaches are more rigid. If the player doesn't fit the system, then he doesn't, he just not developed. And this is not a shot at just Arteta, it's just across the board of world football. So when you see coaches that can, develop players, get them to the next level, Pep, and even he's starting to run into, he's got to go through a period where he's got to look at himself now, because there comes a period as a coach where you have to look at yourself and see if your philosophy is still pertinent. Do I need to change? Because you have to change with the times. And that was one of the things that doomed Wenger, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to that later on. But, you've got to be willing to change. But a lot of those players back then, they had been playing for years before they even made it big. And I think now you look at today's game, you got players, that 1 or 2 YouTube clips or a couple of academy clips, man, and then they hyped up to high heaven, and then the next thing you know, they're starting somewhere. And for all intents and purposes, the player's underdeveloped, if that makes sense. The player's underdeveloped. And so the careers flame out much, much quicker than you would have seen. Because you gotta keep in mind, I saw Anelka at 19. I saw him leave. I saw him come back. I saw him go to Bolton. I saw him go to Madrid. I saw him go to I think went to Turkey, if I'm not mistaken. Then he ended up at Chelsea, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. And then he hadn't lost a beat. But that's because he was developed properly. Yeah. Most players, hooks after 2 or 3 moves, that's it. Your career done. You out of here. But that just goes to show you the longevity of players from back then. Kanu played up until he was up in age there. So, Ian, these guys, these are all guys that, because they were so good at the basics in the basic technicalities of being a player, that the durability, it carried them. Look at Totti. Totti was up in his 40s. I heard something last week about he talking about coming out of retirement because he bored. I mean, that just kind of tells you that the footballers that were built back then were completely different than what they are now. This is why I say that team would probably walk the league, because they'd be 2-3 miles ahead of everybody else. They read the game completely. They would see the game completely different than the way the average player sees it now. So,
yeah. So you think they walk the league? Do they win any of the domestic cups?
Yeah, they take the Carling Cup. You could probably put the bench out there and win the Carling Cup. I mean, I'm just keeping it real, man. I'm keeping it a buck. You know, it's not even up for debate. I mean, that team will walk the Carling Cup. They walk the Carling Cup, FA Cup. They probably get that. They would probably make some history, man. Because if you, like I said, if you're telling me you got Ian Wright, you got Dennis Bergkamp, you got all these guys. What I think Ian, I couldn't remember if Ian retired by then or not, but you got yeah, I think he did retire. I'm getting old now. But you got Bergkamp, Overmars, Petit. You got all these guys, all running around back in that era. Bro, come on, man. You know that hook. You just trying to wire me up this morning on Thanksgiving, trying to wire me up.
All right.
You know, hey, hook. You know that in your heart of hearts. You know that.
Arsenal was completely different back then to what it is now. So it was actually a very, very, very dangerous team. But all right, the final question around this topic. Well, I say the final question. It may lead me on to another one. So, as we both know, the Arsenal men's team has never won a Champions League. I'm shameless. You know, I support Arsenal Football Club, and the Arsenal ladies have won a Champions League. So I'm shameless. I just throw it out there. But do you think? So obviously now the format is a bit different in the Champions League. How do you think that 97-98 team would fare in this season's Champions League?
I think that team, because see, if you're just telling me it's just that team and not the teams that were around them in the 90s, I'd say, yeah, it's a little bit, you asking a big ask if you're talking about for them to win it back in the 90s. But if you're talking about bringing that team into the Champions League now, I'd say they'd at least make it to the final. Yeah, based off of the talent now. It's like I said, that's saying what did you ask me about the league and the Carabao Cup and all? Well, at that time it's the Carling Cup. You're asking me about that now. That same principle applies to now because I don't see, when I look at the landscape of football, I don't see the type of player that I saw back then. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. That's not saying that the players now are bad. This goes back to what I said earlier. They just don't have what those players had back then. They just don't have it. It's like a boxer. You know, these stories, your granddaddy tell you, I watch Muhammad Ali knock down Joe Frazier, and you think he's crazy, but then you actually sit up one night on YouTube and you say, well, let's go back and watch some of these old fights. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, I see why. I can actually see why he was like that, Or, for guys that, for guys that hadn't never watched older UFC fights, they'll say, oh, John Jones is the best known to man. And I was like, well, let's go back and watch a couple of Royce Gracie fights. And you say, okay, well, yeah, that's a little bit different. Like, yeah, I see what you mean. It's just like with Arsenal. You drop that 97, 98 team, 90, 99, and you start dropping them 2000 teams in. It's really it's really going to do some damage, So I mean, it's like the football, the modern footballer. It's just they're underdeveloped. They're underdeveloped. I watched a lot of games yesterday. I watched a lot of the games that played yesterday, and I'll tell you, I watched a little bit of that Liverpool and Real Madrid, and this is probably one of the sorriest Real Madrid sides I've seen in my life. In my life, one of the sorriest Real Madrid teams I've ever seen in my entire life. They have a payroll like that and to put out a product of what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, it's fake Madrid.
Look at there was another game there. I want to say it was PSV. I watched that yesterday, and I said, look at this. I'm watching players that can't do throw-ins, hooks. These are grown men that are getting paid absorbent amount of salaries, and they cannot do a throw-in. Corner kicks. These are basics.
The corner kick thing. Do you know what? Yeah, is it just me? Yeah, or does it feel like players struggle a lot more nowadays to just beat the first man on a corner?
Yeah. No, bro, me and Guns talks about this all the time. So we sit up a lot of times. A lot of people don't know. Me and Lee will just call me some nights and be like, hey, Matt, you want to watch some tape? And I'm like, yeah, let's pull up. So we'll sit up, man. We'll watch like 6, 7, 8 hours of tape. And we'll go back and watch old stuff. We'll go back to the 80s, 70s, 60s, And, bro, just beating a player is basic football. That's basic. Anybody look, when I grew up, I was an attacking player. If I saw two men coming to me, that meant I was pretty damn important. So I've got to put on the show. If I got two guys coming, I've got to put the show on. Yeah, most players now, their first instinct is speed. That's because that's what the game has been dictated to now. They're more concerned about the player's speed. Is he the fastest? Not does he know the basics.
Yeah.
Beat the first man, go. You know, how many times have you watched players? As soon as they get the ball, they'll beat a guy and stop.
Yeah.
When did R9 stop? Rakoba, when did these guys stop?
They never stopped.
They never stopped.
Yeah, they never stopped.
Wesley Snyder, what mean? Frank Ribery, where these guys stop at? These guys you beat the first dude, they going to the goal.
Yeah. Arjen
Robben. These guys, I mean, come on, man. Bro, how many times have you watched Arjen Robben? As soon as he get the ball, you see the player, they freeze up, man. As soon as he get the ball, they freeze up because they know what's coming.
Yeah,
you couldn't do nothing about it. You couldn't do anything about it.
Like so this is at least my opinion on the game today. Is I feel like back then, I feel like the higher level of player was up here, and nowadays the higher level of player has dropped down, just in general across the board. But I do feel like, especially in the Premier League, the lower level of player, I feel like the quality of the lower level of player has risen. So that's why the Premier League has become more competitive, because you're seeing teams that you wouldn't expect to do damage. They now have better players. So it just makes it harder. And that's why I think it's even more damning when teams don't go out and secure the quality of player that they need, because they're actually in a league now that you could go to Bournemouth and lose 2-0.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you could, no disrespect, you could go to the likes of Newcastle and lose. Like you could go to the likes of, well, Brighton are high flying now, and that just shows it. Brighton are pretty much in the top 4. Like, do you know what I mean? Like Brighton are actually looking like they could potentially be fighting out for a Champions League spot this season.
You know where a lot of this started at, man, in the modern era. And I'll tell you, man, one of the teams that I really enjoyed that came up from the championship was Swansea. You remember when Swansea City came up? They came up and they played ball, man. And they hung around for a while. You know, of course, they had a couple of they didn't replace a couple of players, but you know, you enjoyed watching them play. That was, you know, look at Ipswich the other day.
Yeah.
That's another example. I mean, look at Ipswich. Ipswich moving the ball, they're coming to play. You know, I think, you know, for me personally, I heard this graph a long time here for the last couple of years. I've always said there's no way you cannot tell me that there are not players in lower divisions of English football that are available and ready to play. Yeah. For number one, down there, they're gonna have to get the basics. I just think that now what it is that everybody just feels like, well, I've got to go out and buy the absolute best. But let's go back to Wenger. Wenger was getting unearthed French talent. I'm talking from some of these teams nobody had even heard of. Yeah. Look at when he got Kanu. Kanu was coming off of, if I can remember correctly, I think Kanu was coming off of, he was at Inter Milan, 12 appearances and 1 goal.
Yeah.
By today's standard, oh man, it's a flop. He's no good. Yeah, but it's Kanu.
Yeah.
It's Kanu, you know? And then what do we get? We end up getting good 4 years out of him? 4 or 5 years out of him?
Even Bergkamp.
Yeah, Bergkamp was injury hit before he got to Arsenal.
Yeah, even Bergkamp.
He was good, but he was injury hit. Oh, man, that's a risk. It's a risk. But it's still Bergkamp.
Even Henry weren't doing.
He was out of favor at Juventus. He was another. Hey, notice where all these players come from, by the way. But this is why I always tell people, like, what league these players coming from, by the way. I just want you to realize how good that league was, because people discredit that league a lot. Oh man, that's the Farmers League. Oh, nobody like 90s and 2000s Serie A. Are you crazy?
Yeah, yo. Even Vieira came from Serie A as well. We actually had a few players come from. Where did Petit come from? Did Petit come from did he come from the French league? or did he come from the Italian league?
He come from Marseille. No, I'm trying to think. No. Perez came from Marseille. I'm trying to think. I think He came from the French from Ligue 1.
Okay.
I think he came from Ligue 1 at that time.
But you know what? But that's the thing. Like, well, I mean, even if you was to compare the Serie A back then to the Serie A now, it probably is a farmers league. To be completely honest, when you had AC, Inter Milan, Juve, all in their heyday, if you compare that to now, I mean, like you could call Serie A a farmers league if you're being completely honest. But then, I mean, maybe even
I mean, it's definitely not what it was. At least up until about, I'd say probably when Kaká and all them kind of started fading out there. Up until that point, it's definitely not what it used to be. I mean, it's a competitive league, but it's definitely not where not what I saw growing up. You know.
No, definitely. So before I get into it, before we really get into it, I have one final question that I feel like Arsenal related. I think it'll be a good one. Yeah. So you got the 97-98 double Arsenal. Yeah. You got the 01-02 double Arsenal. Yeah. You got the 03-04 invincible Arsenal. And you got the 23-24 Arsenal fought for the title all the way to the final game of the season. Which one of those teams, if they're playing a round robin, you know, four teams in a tournament, who comes out the winner?
03-04.
03-04, just that.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. How you know what, man? To this day, I still wonder how did we not win a Champions League with that team?
Yeah,
that's one of the modern marvels of world football and the history of football. How did we not? But you know that goes back to how competitive it was back then.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to look at the teams that was around. It was very competitive back then, man. You had the United team. You had all the Serie A teams. You had the German teams.
We got knocked out by Chelsea.
Chelsea, man. I mean, Chelsea. Every time you look up, Chelsea was putting us out of cup competition.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, people forget about. See, most of the younger fans don't remember Chelsea before the money came in, and so they just, oh man, Chelsea was trash. Well, no, Chelsea was a cup team. You know, they just could never get over the hump. They never could get over the hump team, and so, but they had good players. Zola, yeah, Hasselbank was there.
Yeah,
you know.
You had Gianluca Vialli, obviously. Rest in peace. Marcel Desailly.
Yep.
Graham Lasso.
Yep.
Yeah, they had a
good team.
Yeah, they did have some good players in their team. Like being all fair, they did, but it's like aside from a few players, it's like leaps and bounds from what they became under Mourinho. Like in the Roman era, they became like really star-studded. Like they heavily invested.
Yeah. Bro, that 2000 was it 2005? Was that the year? Was it not?
Yeah, 2005. Yeah.
Boy, it was laughable. The way they won the league that year, it was absolutely laughable.
Yeah,
how Chelsea was, man, and it was crazy because then you know I'm sitting here going back in time. Remembering, it's just like, you know, I got sick of Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, I was absolutely sick of Chelsea. You know, because every time you look at it, they were buying the best. Best player. Then that damn Drogba. That damn Drogba, man. When he retired the first time, I was like, yes, he's out of here. I don't have to see him anymore. Then he came back. I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. Then he came back and won the Champions League. I was like, look at this joker here, man. Look at this right here. You can't beat this. It's Drogba. Every time we needed a key win against Chelsea, Drogba find a way. If he wasn't doing it, you had Maluda. Then you had the midfielder. I got his name now. I can't think of it. The brother.
Lampard.
Not the brother. The brother. I got his
Makalele.
Claude Makalele. You had him. You know, bro.
Arjen Robben.
Yeah, Lampard. Terry.
Even like the likes of Ida Gudjonsson played a really big part in a lot of the good things that they did there. So yeah, but you know what? Like this is one thing that probably annoys a large.
SN. That's it. That's it. Brother just said in the chat. SN. That's what it was. SN. That was another one.
That's probably something that annoys the large. Well, I say large portion of Arsenal fans. I'll say a section of the Arsenal fans is that Chelsea, all they really did was just kind of copy the model that Man United were doing, which was just buy the best players.
Yeah.
Okay, we've done well this season. What do? Go buy you're doing really well. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're just going to go buy you. Literally, that's how Man United dominated.
You remember that window when they went and got Berbatov? Yeah. They literally kidnapped him. It was like, you come to play for us. And then you look up, he over there. It's like, I'm like, how did they pull this off? We over there signing watched players. Hey, we got Silvestri, which I was like, wait a minute, Vega, you're about 10 years too late on Silvestri, bro. What? You should have been getting him 10 years ago. Not now. Don't get him now. They're over there buying the best of the best. This is why I can't stand United. This is why I enjoy. I revel in this little fall they have because of what we had to deal with, man. It was constant. It was a constant battle every year for supremacy in the Premier League or Cups and competing with Manchester United. They were one of the most aggravating teams when I was coming up, and all my friends are United fans. All of my friends are United fans. I got a few of them that's Liverpool. I got one that's a Liverpool fan, but all my other friends, they're all United fans. And it's just, it is absolutely a nightmare. But it's been quiet the last 2 years. I heard, nobody had said anything, but yeah, United just the team. When you got a manager like Fergie, and you got a wallet at what they had at that time, it was just like, man, they were just. It was a headache, man. I can only imagine when older guys like Jazz that had to deal with Liverpool, in the 80s or whatever, how they had that, having to deal with that. I would have to say we probably got something comparable to that with United when we were coming up, because every time you looked up, we were dealing with them, and it was always a high intensity game. But they will always get the best players, always. Hell, they took RVP off us, and we let that happen. We let that happen to ourselves, but they took him off of us, man, and I'll never forget when City won that title. And I remember where I was at. I remember what was going on. I was actually coaching in a tournament then. All my players we were all sitting around watching the game. And I told one of my players, I said, well, I guarantee you that he's gonna raise hell in the off season, and they're gonna get somebody, they're gonna fix this. He does not like to be embarrassed. And what happened the next year? We giving them the guard of honor. We give them the guard of honor.
I guess you could argue that's probably one of the most painful / frustrating / highly annoying moments as an Arsenal fan in history, is that we let RVP go to Man United, and literally that season he won the Premier League. But this is why I can't be angry with RVP. Because RVP,
I'm not. I wonder if once it's not. I know a lot of fan bases, they never forgave him, all this stuff. I mean, you have to look at the times, because during that period, we're supposed to be competing. You have to ask yourself, we're supposed to be competing. Yeah. And what are we doing? That's basically what he said. What are we doing? Are we competing or are we not? Yeah. Oh, and nobody knows anything. They come in for, I want to win. Yeah. The best players, no matter what league, no matter what you watch in football, basketball, American football, cricket, whatever, the best players want to do one thing, and what is that? Win. Yeah. They want to win. They're concerned about legacy and longevity. They want to win, and not multiple, much as they can win. You know how many players are sitting at home that's retired that they think to themselves, man, I wish I would have made that move to go to such and such. Yeah. I would have wished I would have went this, that, and the third, because they missed that opportunity, even as a coach. And I won a hell of a lot of championships. I didn't win many playing when I played as a kid. And I remember one game that just drove me crazy, because we lost as a kid. We lost the championship, and that was the only other championship I ever got to as a kid. So when I started coaching, I used that passion to coach my players. And that's how we ultimately started winning, Yeah. So
And I guess that's what defines the best players, right? Is that they do want to win, and then they go on to win. They make it happen. So yeah, look, nice little convo so far. But what I want to know is, tell me about your journey as an Arsenal fan. Like, how did it start? Why did you choose Arsenal? And I guess along your journey, has there been like a moment where maybe not regretted, but questioned the decision that you made to become an Arsenal fan?
Yeah. So when I started out, so in the States, in America, right here where I'm at, for those who are listening on Spotify, we had it wasn't quite Fox Sports. I forgot the name of it now, but they had access to the game, so you could watch a couple of games. So the first team I watched was Arsenal, and so combine that with me as a kid, because I actually got the picture. This is me. If I can get zoom in here, I would have got one of the pictures here. Let me zoom in and get this sorted out here for y'all. I'm not gonna pull out the one when I had a whole bunch of facial hair. Lee gonna see that, but if you can see right there, there I am right there. So I was the only black kid on this team. But that's how it was back in the day, back in those days. And so growing up playing ball, man, and I'm gonna kind of bridge this together for you. Growing up playing ball, a lot of times I was the only black kid wherever I went. Even as a kid, I experienced racism. So I could tell you all about some stories, especially because for those who don't know, I'm actually in Georgia. I'm in the South. So you already know what I've been through down here in the South. So a lot of my friends, as I alluded to earlier, they're all United fans. So when I was a kid, I played on another team. It was called Manchester United. Now at that time, this was like in the 93, 92. So a buddy of mine who was a goalkeeper, my buddy Will, was like, "Oh man, yeah, man, we name our team is Manchester United, man. We're the best ever." And anybody knows me knows I'm a little bit of a maverick, so I tend to go against the grain. And I was like, "Well, if that's who you like, I'm not rolling with that team. I'm gonna find somebody else." So just so happened, go back to the 90s, watching football. I saw Arsenal. I said, "Oh man, they got a cannon as the logo." I said, "All right, I'm gonna roll with this team." And then what stood out to me was this one thing, and people ask me who my favorite player is, and I have to tell people all the time is Ian Wright. And people say, "Well, why is Ian Wright your favorite player?" I said, because number one, he looked like a brother from around the way. When you look at him from the 90s, he looked like a brother that from the hood that you probably seen, around the way. He was unapologetically black, and he was a striker. I played striker, so it was like, oh, I have somebody I can look up to.
Yeah,
And that was unheard of. Like I said, for years, growing up as a kid, I only know, and I'm just kind of on top of my head, maybe 4 or 5 players, and they were all people that I knew personally that played ball. We were all the only black dudes on our teams. So it was football. Football had not taken off like here in the States, nowhere the way it is now. And so it was rare to even see anybody, black playing ball. And so when I saw Ian Wright, man, it was just like I fell in love. I was like, oh yeah, I'm riding to die. Anybody knows me, once I latch onto a team, that's the team I'm riding to die no matter what, And as far as have I ever regretted being an Arsenal fan or have ever thought about it? Nah. It just comes with the territory. I've been with teams that stunk. And most people know who follow me know I'm a Patriots fan. I was with the Patriots when they stunk. Like somebody said nobody plays football in the ghetto. Yeah, you don't find too many people around here, back then playing ball. You have to go. You got it. In America, it's pay for play. So my aunt rather, who signed me up to play. Her sons went to private school, so they played in private school. Were pretty damn good too. They went to private school, and so I used to go to their games and watch them play, and then that's kind of how I started playing. I would go play with the kids. They have like a little, setup. You know how when you go to a football game, they have a little where the kids play at, goal setup. And I started playing, and so basically, man, they UG had the DWTT in the chat. Gary's in the chat. I looked at Gary. He said, "Yeah, we sucked back then." But Georgia football. He talking about American football. But I used to go out and watch go out and play with the kids or whatever. And then, so my aunt was watching me and she said, well, I'm going to sign you up. And then that's ultimately how I got into football, started playing and everything. And I just loved it. My mom was like, no, you're not playing American football. You're not going to get hurt. I'm not going to go deal with all these medical bills and all that. And so, somebody knocking the hell out you, willingly, nah. So, me playing football, I just developed a love for it. And like I said, fell in love with it watching Ian. And at that time, I didn't know exactly what I was watching. I just knew I was watching Arsenal, watching them play. I didn't read the game like I read it now. So it's just basically, just enjoying yourself. And then probably around the mid 90s, 95, 96, 97. So I was in high school, and about 96, I started high school. And then that's when I started kind of taking it a little bit more serious. I was playing varsity ball in school. So I started kind of, looking at the game a little bit different, watching the Champions League and stuff like that. And then by the time we got to the 90s, then we was cooking then. Because at that time, I was coming out of high school. And then I was supposed to go off I had got a scholarship opportunity, but the out-of-state fee here in America, if you go off to school and you're out of state, you have to pay an out-of-state fee as college becomes a lot more expensive. So I had a guy say, well, I'll tell you what, there's going to be a tryout for this team called the Atlanta Silverbacks. He said, go over there, try, he gave me the dude's name. And I went over there, tried out with them, and I made it developmental. And then I did that for a little while. And this is when I always tell people, like, a player knows. A player knows when this is it. This is above my pay grade. And I remember we were playing some guys, man. They were from Costa Rica. And this dude spun me hooks. Bro. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. I remember just like it was yesterday. Sunday afternoon, man. And he spun me. I looked up. And I said, yeah, man, this a little bit too fast for me, man. Because see, we didn't have the development that players have, that everybody else had in the world. So I had a buddy of mine that played on the Canadian national team when I was in high school, and you could clearly tell he was like completely different. He was like on the U17 team or whatever. A guy named Jeremy Frankson. You go look him up. He was the best player I've ever seen. But even up there, it was just the development was different. So I didn't have that. So back when I was coming up, I used to have to watch Arsenal games and stuff like that. And I'd be amazed at what I saw and how far the game was ahead. And I was like, well, why can't we have this over here? So by the time 96, 97, I think MLS started in 96. But it was just like basically back then, it was just basically kick the ball as long as you can, chase after. Kick the ball long, it was horrible to watch. A lot of people, anybody that's my age, I remember when MLS came in, it was a shit show, For the longest, people didn't think the league was gonna hang around, and then when you get to the 2000s, and that's when things started to change. People started to take a little bit more serious. United States, you saw what the product we put out in 2002 in the World Cup. The product started changing. People started taking a little bit more serious, and now you've got a halfway decent league. Now it's not the best of the best, but you got a halfway decent league. But as an Arsenal fan, being able to grow up and be able to watch players that that you can relate to. Anelka. Anelka's only 2 years older than me. So when I see him, I'm like, oh, dude's 19, man. I'm 17, 19. Wow, wow, I didn't know you could do this, play at that age, And so, you're watching Arsenal, man, and I just fell in love with him, man. I fell in love. And then just add the titles and cups to it. It was just like icing on the cake. And so when you get to those late 90s battles, them 99, 2000, 2001 battles, is one of my good buddies. I don't know if he's watching this or listening, but my buddy, Ja, man, he'll tell you, man, he's a diehard United fan. I'm a diehard Arsenal fan. We used to go at it like that all the time, And then my best friend is an Arsenal fan, and we used to he used to always enjoy when we made it to the FA Cup, man, because he used to just say it was our title. That was ours. He's like, it's just automatic. Yeah, we saw we and when you go look at the numbers, you look at them now, you go, you can clearly see why, because we own the FA Cup. And then you get to the Invincibles, and I remember 2003. I remember that, bro. It was one of those things where it was like, man, I don't want to jinx this. I don't want to jinx this, So I would check in, I would watch games here or there, and I remember, man, the Liverpool game, and I was like, oh man, this is when I was sweating, boy. I was sweating that game. Yeah. When TT had to bail us out, I was sweating. 18. I was in my college dorm then. And I remember we pulled it out and I was like, I think we might do it, man. Because there's certain wins there on that streak that you saw. It was like, you were like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm feeling mighty good, you know. And when we did it, it was one of the most amazing things ever. That's what people don't understand how much of a once in a lifetime opportunity that is, man. Whether will it get done again, I don't know. I can't say it. You know, that's just the nature of the beast. But to be able to see something like that and to be able to tell people that you actually saw it.
Yeah.
You know, back then we were spoiled. And I think that's why a lot of times when you hear people talk about moving from hybrid to the Emirates, and I have to tell people, man, you think about 2003, 2004, 2002, 2001, it's like if I would have told you that we were moving to a new stadium, but we wouldn't have won anything, you'd have thought I was crazy. Man, what is this fool talking about? Based off of what what we had seen. Because see, all I knew was winning in them 2000s. And so when you get to 2004, 2005, like this picture, you probably can't see it right there, but that's actually, I got let me move my finger right there. That's TT's last goal in hybrid. And you know, we moving to we moving to the Emirates. We coming off the back of a Champions League final. Y'all, man, we cooking now. You know, they told us we moving. We're moving to compete. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. You know, and then we got over there and it was anything but, you know. We had some good times, you know, initially, but it was anything but. But being an Arsenal fan, I never looked at the day and said, man, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have been a United fan, or I wish I would have supported Liverpool. No, man, Arsenal, as a brother, man, it was great, man, to see a multicultural team. I'm just keeping it buck. You know, see a team where you got brothers and at the time white guys all on one team, everybody on the same page, you know, everybody's working together. You know, because it was something that I had never seen growing up as a child. Like I told you, I just showed you I was the only black kid for years, even in high school. Years. You know, and so when we talk about racism, I don't tell this story too often, man, but I remember I was in a place in middle Georgia called Milledgeville, Georgia. And I had a game, man, and I remember, I'll never forget this longest day as I live, man. I was down there, and at that time, it was really, really redneck down there. And so we go down there to play, man, and I took my own horn. I was lighting it up. But then I remember I scored a goal, man, and I remember a bottle got thrown at me, man.
Oh, wow.
And then that's when I was like, that's when it, you know, it kind of clicked in my head, like, damn, man, it's like that. So I added another 3 goals to the tally. So I was like, you know, so when I watched, so I was like, well, I just added another 3 goals to sort that out, you know. So, but you know, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, you deal with, man. And so that's why I always say, no matter how bad Ian Wright makes me now, I still love him because he was my favorite player. You know, he's a black guy. He was always, because I was able to look at somebody and go, you know what, this is something I can relate to. You know, of course we had Pele, but you know, I used to hear about Pele. I'd never seen him because by the time I started watching, he was kind of on the back end of his career. You know, he was basically doing charity games at that stage, you know. But, you know, I heard about him. You know, everybody knew about him, you know. And then you had R9, but, you know, that's a different ballgame. That's a whole different discussion now, R9. But, you know, it's just, you know, just growing up, being able to see somebody that you can go, okay, you know. And then you look at Arsenal, then you look at the brothers, you look at Vieira, Kanu, like I said, Ashley Cole, you know, TT, of course, and you start seeing all the brothers, and it's like, yeah. You
know, just on that, because obviously you've spoken briefly about Ian Wright, who's one of your favorite players for Arsenal of all time, but then obviously you have Thierry Henry as well, who's another one of your all-time favorites at Arsenal. Why is that?
His desire to win. And I don't think people understand that when you watch him, his desire, no matter what the situation was. And I know a lot of people love to say, oh man, he didn't show up in those finals. He didn't show up then. Now I always have to tell people, you know, finals are 50-50 across the board. It's always 50-50. You know, this is why I always tell people, you want to be competitive and get to the final. Y'all, because then you put yourself in a situation where you can try to win. You put yourself in a where you can win it. But if you needed a goal, or you needed a flash of brilliance, and you knew when you were going up against you knew when you was going up against United, and you had him in the team, you knew there was always a shot. You knew when we played Liverpool on Sunday afternoons over here. You was in for a shot. You knew he was going to light up Spurs. You knew he was going down to Middlesbrough and kick them in the team. You know he enjoyed that. That was one of his favorite places to score. The Leeds back then, because people forget about Leeds had a decent team. They forget about before the financial stuff. They had a really good team. He would go to these places and turn up into Milan. I mean, wrecking shout, Real Madrid, Bernabeu.
Yeah.
This is why when I tell people, when we talk about that run, I always say, go look at the teams that he had to go and dismantle for us to get to the final. It was a who's who in world football. The who's who in world football. And that run, that iconic run to score that goal in the Bernabeu. Me and Lee set up about 3-4 weeks ago, and we said let's go back and watch the game that got us to the final, but the game that got us to Villarreal rather. And he said, yeah, let's watch it. And then we went back, man. We was watching it, and I told him, I was like, bro, I don't think people understand. When you look at him, you're like, this dude exemplified absolutely winning and success. And then to do what they did to Brazil in '98.
Yeah,
that Brazil team in '98. Vieira, Petit, all of them. You look at that, man, and this is why I say Titi Henry is a textbook example of where the club should have went. When we moved to the Emirates, we should have always been striving to find a leader like that.
Yeah.
That's no matter what player we bought, that's the player that a leader with that kind of mentality to win. Because that's all he was concerned about, winning. He came over here to the States, played for the Red Bulls, winning. That's all he was concerned about is winning. That's all he was concerned about, winning. He's everything that I used to try. I had one kid that played for me, man. I used to make him watch him over and over and over and over. A kid by the name of Reggie. I used to make him watch him all the time because he was fleet of foot just like him. And I used to tell him, look how he darts in, look how he cuts in, look how he movement, look how he just splits defenders. He's anticipating the ball. He's already making a run. Look at it, simple goal scoring. People. I remember when he came into the team, Afro. I always call him Afro TT, because everybody seen him. Most folks seen him with the ball here. I remember Afro, baggy kit, TT.
Yeah.
Who is this kid? I was like, oh, you don't know who that is? I'm like, he played for the French national team. Like, oh, you're gonna find out who he is in a second. Yeah. And then here he is scoring, Manchester United. It was just so fun watching him, man. Because anytime he got the ball, it was just like the same feeling for the modern fan that remember when Alexis Sanchez got the ball. It was the same way when TT got it. It was just like, oh yeah, let me sit up because we get ready to see something now. We get ready to see. Yeah, I mean, how many players have we had in the last 10 years outside of Sanchez and Aubameyang that make you go, oh, well, I got to sit up to go watch this because that something's getting ready to go down,
Not to the same consistent level. I don't think they're
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like that those kind of players, we were really blessed. And I tell Guns this all the time. I don't think people realize how blessed we were to see some of the players that we saw growing up. We were blessed. We were born at the right time to be able to grow up and watch that class of Arsenal players come through. It's just like I know, Jez and those guys, they go back to the older days there, and they, Leon Brady and all those guys, they was able to go back and look at them. Michael Thomas and Rocastle.
Yeah.
Kevin, all those guys, and they was able to enjoy that Anfield '89. I can only imagine, what that feels like to be able to say that they actually saw, watched, and some of them even at the game Anfield '89. those are moments and times that should be cherished. This is why I tell people, I hope everybody enjoyed, and I enjoyed those last couple of FA Cups that we got, because you just don't know when you're gonna see them again. That's why it hurt me so bad when we didn't finish the 93% season, because it's not promised that you'll get it again. It's not promised, so you have to seize those opportunities. Carpe diem, as they say, seize the day. You have to seize the day, and so I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I was heartbroken, man, when we sold him for Barcelona, man. And I remember sitting at work that day. I was at work, and I remember when Talk Sport announced the fee. I said, "We did what? We sold him for who? We sold him for how much?"
Yeah.
And that's when I started to question that's when I started to go, well, what's going on over here at Arsenal now? What's the problem? David Dean had left. He had rolled out, that whole situation with him. That was out. He was out of there. And so we went through that period of change, man. And then I remember after we got rid of him, people don't remember. Remember, Eduardo showed up.
Yeah.
And so Eduardo showed up, and I was like, okay, let's get his brother a shot, because nobody really knew who he was because nobody paid attention. Unless you were just a Shakhtar fan, you probably would have knew who he was, but most of us didn't know. And then he showed up, and then he kicked on, and then of course we all know what happened with him. Yeah. The ankle injury. I still say to this day, had he not got that ankle broke, we win the league. We win the league. We were walking the league that year, bro. Yeah, walking. That dude was cold blooded, man. To this day, I still want to did you never panic in front of goal? And it would always be simple stuff like a simple tap in, boop, boop, a simple push pass, goal. Never panic. And then at that period, we was dealing with RVPs. He was injured, back, injured, back, injured, back, injured, back. Then finally, when we got him back healthy and got him cooking, he was out of here. Yeah. And it was just like another missed opportunity. So it's just that we could never get right per se. And it just it was nerve maddening. It drove me crazy there for a while. I mean, I know, like I told you earlier, I never questioned, why I support this team, but it just was just like, why can't we just get the fundamental things right? I'm looking at Manchester United doing everything. They're going out buying quality players. They keep winning. Because then in that period, let's speed up a little bit, Hooks. Let's go to 2011, 2012. Here come the money from City. Yeah. And I remember telling people. I told Lika, this is in the days of message boards. So we're going way back for YouTube and all that. We all on message boards. And I'm telling folks, hey man, we might need to start getting our ducks in a row, because now we got to compete with United, City, and Chelsea. And then let's just not forget Liverpool still, the wildest thing about Liverpool during all this Arsenal is that people remember they had not won a title. They hadn't won a title in like years. People just, it's 18 years, 17 years, 16. They hadn't won, but they were still winning Champions Leagues. Yeah, they were still 2005. AC Milan, they still winning. 2000, not 2005. Was it 2007, 6 or whatever? I can't remember the year they came back on AC Milan. I think it was 6, 5. Was it 5? I can't remember now, but they were still winning Champions League. And so it was still, no matter, this kind of tells you how, when you look at other teams, how serious they take things. I'm going to say it again, just so I can just hammer this home for everybody, that AC Milan and Liverpool were going at it for Champions League, Yeah. I know you got to rap, man. We can talk for days, man. I know we could talk for days.
Yeah. But I do have a final question. What does being a fan mean to you? And can you imagine a world without Arsenal?
Being a fan to me means that you can criticize your team, love the team, and still support the team. I think people love the team, don't criticize the team. I just think you got to criticize the team for them to get better. I mean, that's just the way it works. You have to do that, You have to have a standard for the team. Why would you support a team that don't want to win? I mean, if that's the case, if that's the case, then Spurs have a lot of fans. If that was the case, if you didn't want to give a damn about winning, And to answer the other question, no, I couldn't imagine life without Arsenal, man. I mean, it's like a drug, man. I'm too far in. I'm too far. I'm in too deep, man. If Arsenal folded, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd probably have to go study. I'd probably go do like Lee. I'd just go over to Real Madrid and just sit over there, you know. But no, I couldn't see it. I couldn't imagine life without Arsenal, man. I bleed the red and white, man, and I eat it up, man. It's in your veins. I can tell you it's in your DNA. It's in your DNA, man. You know,
100%, 100,000,000%. Like, a world without Arsenal would be a very empty world. At least in my opinion. I've devoted way too much of my life to being an Arsenal fan. I've actually been an Arsenal fan longer than knowing some people in my family. That's how long I've been attached to the team. So yeah, I couldn't see a world without them either. But Matt, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed the conversation. Love for coming on. Thank you. I highly appreciate it. Thank you for your time. It does mean a lot. Look, people, on the way out, just make sure that you are liking the video. Drop a comment as well, just so it can work with the algorithms as best as possible. If you aren't already, please do go and subscribe to Matt over at the Southern Gooner. Continue to support all the great work that he is doing. And I will catch you next time.